Big Stick Diplomacy, the Roosevelt Corollary to the Monroe Doctrine. Fresh off his quote-unquote victory in Panama, President Teddy Roosevelt set out to make sure that the United States was the sole power in the Western Hemisphere when he added the Roosevelt Corollary to the Monroe Doctrine in December 1904. This was part of Roosevelt's foreign policy concept of big stick diplomacy, that one should, quote, speak softly and carry a big stick, end quote. Roosevelt said that he took this from a West African proverb, but there is still some dispute about this. The Monroe Doctrine, part of President James Monroe's 1823 State of the Union speech, made it an act of war against the United States if any European power tried to establish colonies in the Western Hemisphere. Roosevelt added that the United States would intervene to guarantee the legitimate claims of European nations if those nations of the Western Hemisphere owed them money. What that meant was that rather than allow European nations to send in troops to collect a debt, the United States would essentially guarantee that the money would be paid so that the nations of Europe did not have to send in troops. Like the Monroe Doctrine, the Roosevelt Corollary worked to prevent European influence in the Western Hemisphere. Unlike the doctrine, the Roosevelt Corollary allowed the United States to use their military force in Central America to keep Europeans out. The United States would also be able to send in their military to make sure that those debts could be collected. In Cuba, Roosevelt sent in troops to occupy the island when a group of former Cuban revolutionaries tried to overthrow the government. This occupation lasted for 3 years. In Nicaragua, a series of presidents, starting with Roosevelt's successor William Howard Taft, kept a detachment of Marines in the country, claiming to protect U.S. lives and property. This occupation lasted off and on until 1933. In Haiti, Marines were stationed on the island from 1915 to 1934. Treaties in 1915 and 1917 gave the United States control of the major government positions. They also put down a series of small rebellions on the island and made sure that the debts of the nation were paid off to banks in New York. After a series of attempts to overthrow various governments in the Dominican Republic, President Woodrow Wilson sent the Marines onto the island in 1916. Many Dominicans refused to participate in government, forcing U.S. naval officers to fill roles in the government. There were several small attempts at revolution, but these were relatively easily put down. By 1924, the country had been pacified to the point where the United States felt comfortable allowing elections to happen on the island and that they could withdraw. While the Roosevelt Corollary was used in a number of instances, future presidents came up with alternatives to it. William Howard Taft, Roosevelt's immediate successor, developed the idea of dollar diplomacy, which encouraged United States investment of capital in foreign countries. Woodrow Wilson, the son of a Protestant minister, developed the idea of moral diplomacy, which discouraged the use of force in negotiations, replacing it with democratic ideals.